Today's guest doesn't do surface level. Clay Moffat is a Navy veteran, performance coach, and author of The Trust Trap. He built a seven-figure company, burned it to the ground, and came back sharper after nearly losing his vision. If you've ever felt like you were stuck in cycles of betrayal, overthinking, or playing too small, this one's for you. I'm telling you, man, I was, for the folks that's listened all the time, I have a journey, I have a story. And when I was reading about you, other than some different titles along the way, but it seems like we share and some of the reckless behaviors that I like to talk about on my show. But thank you, man. I'm excited to get to know you.
I'm excited to get started. This is a cool opportunity. I especially love it when it's live because then there's no editing, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, well, this is what you get.
Yeah, it's and and I think it serves up well, right? It's no different than your live sitcom that you used to watch maybe when you were a kid or what have you. But so I try to do as much as I can live. I think there's a lot of value in um, working in the SEO and marketing space. There's tons of value in just live content on all the platforms. There's a little nugget for everyone to take away that Facebook, Instagram, um, all those platforms favor live because it means you're active on their platform. It allows them to pull in more users and all that too. So just a little lesson from that. But outside of that, man, you know, I think I told someone the other day, I'm just like a little kid with a dream. And to think that I have my own little TV show here, growing up on a black and white TV,
Yep.
having my own little TV show here, kinda is pretty cool for me.
I think that's exactly what it is. Like Joe Rogan, Andrew Huberman, there's a lot of people that are talking about how podcasts are becoming the new medium, right? And the new medium that a lot of people want to get their information. Because while you can't distill and fact check everything, what you can do is you can start to get more of the human element. And I think that's been stripped away from what's been happening with media everywhere.
Yeah, so coaching business, one of the things that I stress to business owners is I grew up at a time to where you were limited to the 3 to 5 channels on your TV, and
Mhm.
paper media was our form of how we were educated on what was going on in the world, and then advertisements and all those things. They were controlled into those very expensive but small areas, right? And
Yep.
now, man, now as a business owner, you are in charge of your own media. You get to be your own media company. You can publish. You're only limited by kind of the box that you put yourself in. You can really
Right.
get out and do your own shows, and um, so I think there's something to be said for that as well. And you get to control your own narrative, and you're not pressured into, like we see with TV sometimes,
Mhm.
where they're pressured into a narrative based on those sponsorship dollars that are coming in.
Absolutely. I think it's a very healthy approach. I mean, it's like everything, right? It goes both ways. There's some ways where it can go an exceptionally bad way, but I think overall, for the most part, podcasting as a marketing source, as a source of entertainment, as a source of brand exposure, and even as a source of connecting with human beings that you would never have connected with before, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's fantastic.
I think you got that. And then, when you go back in time, you would have had to have come into my studio and sat down in my studio with all the lights and camera. And right now, you calling in from Thailand, man. And we were on a live show together, calling in. Um, I said there's something to be said for that, and just how cool it is that we're able to have this conversation like you and I are today.
Yeah, it's amazing. Technology, when it works, is such a blessing.
You were I can hear your accent. Where are you? Where's home? What home country? What country do you call home?
That's an interesting question. I don't really call any country home at the moment. Like I live in Thailand. I'm originally from Australia,
I got you.
but as so I look at it this way. I cannot ever become naturalized as a Thai citizen. Well, that's not true. It's extremely difficult for someone like me to become naturalized as a Thai citizen. And even if I was naturalized as a Thai citizen, I would always be recognized as a foreigner because I'm not Asian. I don't look Asian. And that's not to say it's anything racist, but it's very obvious that I am not Thai,
Yeah.
right? If I was to move to the US or to Canada or to the UK or to New Zealand, then it wouldn't necessarily be obvious apart from my accent and then definitely my mannerisms when we get into it, right? But it wouldn't be obvious that I was not from there because there's no predefined, okay, like an American looks like this because America's a melting pot, Australia's a melting pot, like those countries like that. So I don't know. I've got an Australian passport. I live in Thailand. I don't really think of myself as having a home much, but Thailand is our home for now. This is where we live. This is how, I mean, I've lived here for a decade. So it's not like I just came here yesterday, right? But for the first few years, even when I was living here, I was only living here for maybe 4 months out of the year. The rest of the time I spent traveling. So it wasn't like I was even living here. And that was the case for probably the first 3 or 4 years when I was living here. And after that, I've been pretty much living here the whole time.
Your Navy time, Australia?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got you. I get, that was probably more so what I was looking for too, asking where home was. But that's a really great explanation, man. And I'm a little envious that you get to do that. So I think it would be really cool. And you're probably the third or fourth guest. I was telling you, like I've guested on a few there, and it's really neat. Infrastructure wise, it's very sound, and it's not choppy, and it's you're halfway around the world, and if not like a really long way away around the world. So it's really cool that you had that opportunity, and we've talked about that a little bit of like as our kids are growing, what is travel look like for us, and that's on my list, on my short list of things I'd like to see and do and experience is Thailand and some like Vietnam and some of those places.
Yeah, to travel to? Absolutely. I agree. This is actually kind of one of the issues that I'm speaking about with my wife at the moment. So we're talking back and forth, and for my son, who's 3.5, to go to basically kindergarten, we're paying around about 15 grand a year. For my daughter, who's in grade 1, we're paying around about, I think it's $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
And the quality of education is down here, and it doesn't matter. Like you can just see it. And so when you're paying that much and you're getting so little, you're like, okay, it's great. We've got a good lifestyle here. Are we willing to sacrifice their future so we can have the lifestyle now? And it's not really adding up, right? If the lifestyle was amazing and impeccable and it was perfect in every way, maybe you could argue, and even then, you're robbing away from their future. And so, while Thailand's been great, I think its days are numbered unless we can find like a better alternative or a better way to school them or a better way to help them. Because I mean, their future's more important than what we do right now. I mean, what we do right now is obviously important, but if we are consciously aware that we're potentially setting them up for failure because of the way the schooling system is and because of the way things are set up, then I think that's on us to get moving. Which is why when you ask me where's home, I'm like, yeah, no, not here. It can't be here because I wouldn't be happy sitting here and like raising them all the way through the whole gambit of school.
Do you have you looked at? And just curious here, we'll move on. Just for the
Mm-hmm.
online things, because I really have a lot of where I'm from, where I grew up at. There's a lot of homeschooling. There's a lot of folks just not putting their kids in the public school system here in the states. And there's some online academies and some different platforms that are serving to fill the gap in what you just talked about.
Yep.
Is that not an option for you, or?
So it's not an option for one main reason. I don't mind running the lessons. I don't mind looking after the kids. I don't mind doing all of that. The one thing that I cannot facilitate is their social needs. Like
Yeah,
I am not
great
a
point.
4-year-old and an 8-year-old, right? I don't have an
Yep.
abundance of four. It'd be very weird if I had an abundance of 4 and 8-year-olds running around to play with my kids. That'd be quite disturbing. But I don't have that, and the network here doesn't really exist. So there's no like junior league, there's no little league, there's no scouts, there's no surf lifesavers, there's no shooting club, there's no hunting club. Like that doesn't exist here. And all the stuff that does exist because we're in Thailand is aimed for Thais. I mean, strangely enough, right? We're in Thailand, so they make it for Thai people. Weird. But the whole point of it is, while that would be amazing, it's not something that's possible here because and their social skills and them being humans that can interact and communicate and connect with other human beings is to me as important, if not more important than school. Because you can the people that are not that well educated but extremely sociable people and get on with people that can be extremely successful at life.
That's great points, man. Really, really solid advice there, and I'm with you on the socialization part. Tell me, working there, man, what's a day in your life look like? What's how's work, and how do you what are you doing these days there?
Well, work is pretty different, uh, purely because of the time zone. So, like we were speaking about before, where like I think literally on the opposite side of the globe to you in terms of the latitude, right? Um, so we're almost probably drill through the center of the earth or come out on like where you live. But basically, what happens is because of that, I usually start and I've got clients first thing in the morning. This is an exception for me. This is like the middle of the night for me. Um, but it's a live show. And so there is absolutely no way of moving the live show when you usually have a live show. I can't just ask, hey, Jeff, by the way, like, do you mind if we just move the show? No, it doesn't work like that. So, you're accustomed. But typically speaking, I'm up around about 5 a.m. and then I'll be going and doing some stuff, and then I'll be working with clients, and I'll finish working with clients at around about midday. And then around about midday, I'm picking up my son from school because he's doing kindergarten, so he finishes at lunchtime. Bring him home, have lunch with him, put him down for a nap. Then I go back to work for about an hour. Then I go wake him up, then pick him up and go and pick up his sister from school because she's in like actual school. She'll do half days. Then I come back, then I'm messing around the house with them, playing in the pool, or I'm teaching them and taking them through like logic puzzle, sequencing, brain games, these kind of things to get their brains moving, to supplement the education that's going on here to help keeping them active and moving forward. Then finish that, we'll go straight into dinner. I'll bail on dinner early and I'll usually come back to work with my evening session in my clients, which will usually last from around about 7 through to about 11:30 at night. Then I shut it down.
Just look here. It's 1:43 where you are, and it's about 2:48 where I'm at. So yeah,
Oh, you're
going.
Eastern Standard Time?
Yeah,
Okay, there you go. Yeah, we're 12 hours apart from Central at the moment. Yeah.
yeah. How did you walk me back, man? You have this just reading about you, and I'm excited for our listeners and our viewers to learn more about you. Um, you have an amazing story that led you into this coaching career and the things that you do now. Walk us back. I don't. I think that's what I was telling you. We both. I do some similar work as you, and my coaching was forged out of a lot of. I read you put something in your notes that really I enjoyed, and I read it, and I read it out loud, and this was the part that I thought. I'll tell you right here. It was. Uh, let's see here. It was. Oh man. Subs clearly. That is screwed over. People aren't really broken. And my podcast for about 100 episodes was the Second Chance podcast, and we focused on breaking the curse and all the things that I thought that I needed to talk through. And it turns out
Right.
it really wasn't a curse. Right? It wasn't a curse. It wasn't what I wasn't broken. But what you put here, and I wanted to point that out for our guests. People aren't really broken. They don't understand how their brain works. That sets them up to get screwed over time and time again. I love that, man. Where was that born at? Where did that come from for you?
Where it came from, I don't know. I honestly, like some people go, oh, it's this one event. I can picture it. It's seamless. It's flawless. I don't know. The argument could be made that through perception and through this absorption that we have as children, I managed to pick up, for whatever reason, some really bad habits off my parents. You could make that argument. So it could be inherited in that way. But I don't know. I just don't know. But what I do know is this: I spent the good majority of the first 27 years of my life walking around with a massive chip on my shoulder, like everyone owed me something, without even realizing that I thought that everyone owed me something. So basically, I spent the first 27 years walking around in a state of victimhood without even knowing that I was pretending to be a victim. And I've had to admit that pretty frequently because people ask about the story, right? And so when I get on a podcast, I'm like, ah. And even just admitting that sucks. But while the act of admitting it sucks, there's a recognition in the fact that, okay, I've admitted that's how it was, which means, obviously, that I've moved through it. So, I mean, it's actually a really positive thing. So I've come to peace with that. But what became obvious was, man, when I was 12 or 13, I went camping with my best mate at the time and his family. And funnily enough, I just saw some photos come up of that friend at the campsite where all this transpired, some almost 30 years later. And I ended up getting hammered drunk, like stupid hammered drunk, blackout drunk, to the point where his mum at 1 a.m. had to drive an hour and a half to the local rural hospital to admit me because I had alcohol poisoning. Fortunately, it wasn't to the level where I required a blood transfusion, but they said something like about 3 shots or 1 or 3 shots more, and it would have been at the level where they had to do a blood transfusion. They didn't have my blood, so like it would have been lights out. Anyway, needless to say, I wasn't allowed to hang out with that friend anymore after that. And then there was just like a slew of events that started happening after that as well. So I don't know, like my mom and my dad, I asked them about it. Like, what happened? Like, I don't have anything major trauma in my life. I just don't. But something happened at some point. They said I was a happy little kid. I was happy doing this. Everything's great. But then the wheels started falling off. And there's no like one event where I can go, yep, this is exactly what happened. We just don't have it. But it happened. And I fell victim to whatever the hell occurred and then just had to kind of go along with it. It kind of boxed me in a corner. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So when I left school, I just joined the Navy because, well, I get paid and I get to travel, so I may as well. That was a really bad idea. I have a disdain for authority that people tell me is authority. Like, oh, this person's authority, so you should respect them. Like, well, what have they done to deserve and earn my respect? Like, nothing. Why must I just respect them because of whatever they've done? Like, I'll choose to respect them if I want to, but I respect the person. I don't respect the rank, and that is like not something you can do in the military. In the military, you have to respect the rank, not the person. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow, which kind of goes back to this whole victimhood thing and also goes back to a lack of emotional awareness, right? Emotional maturity, which happens when you're a 17-year-old disgruntled boy joining the Navy. So I got passed over for a few things. I got backstabbed by my employers. The big one that really set off, well, before that, when I was 18, I had my first Christmas leave. And unlike the States, we can legally drink at 18. So I flew back home to Perth, which is like the equivalent of flying from New Orleans to LA, right? So our training base was in New Orleans, basically. I flew back to LA, where I'm from, and landed, contacted one of my mates. He's like, oh, I've got my work Christmas party. You got to come. I'm like, okay, no worries. He picked me up. I was home for maybe a couple of hours, went to this party, and woke up 3.5 days later in hospital. Got in a massive fight, apparently, that I tried to break up or something. Like the story keeps changing. But what did happen was I got thrown through a balcony rail, like it was smashed. And I fell 12 foot headfirst on the concrete. And I still got the dent in my skull from it. And the doctor said to me, you know what? You're really lucky to be alive. If you hadn't been drunk, you would be dead by now. Which my brain interpreted as, oh, great, so we should keep drinking then, which was not the solution, but it seemed to somehow pair alcohol, kept us alive, good things. And then so I carried on drinking, which really shouldn't have happened, but it did. At that time, drinking in the Navy was a huge cultural thing. It's not the Navy's fault. I still drank. I still had my issues coming up, but it was definitely a cultural thing. And so I just carried on drinking, did all those things. Um, then I did some other stupid stuff, like I got drunk on duty, which was just absolutely moronic. Now I look back at it, but I did it. My boss, who was the same rank as me at the time, found out. He just had a lot more seniority, a lot more. And he told me he was disappointed and he was going to punish me and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, whatever, man. And they said they're going to keep it in house. Now, to me, in house means we're going to take care of it. Like, it's not going to go further and you're going to get punished. You have to do shit jobs, blah, 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 blah. And that's what everyone else understood too. But then what they did is they went and told their supervisor. And he went and told his, and he went and told his. And then long before, not before long, what ended up happening was I was fronting my divisional boss and the captain for why I was drinking on duty. And while I was completely in the wrong for doing so, they had told me they were taking it in house. And so I just responded in kind, like, okay, you're going to backstab me, watch me throw you under the bus. And so I said, nope, I didn't drink. And no one had seen me drink, not a single person. And well, that's not true. Not a single person that was trying to bust me had seen me drink. And all the people that had seen me drink, I hadn't mentioned anything to anyone. And they weren't going to tell anyone that they gave me alcohol because everyone that gave me alcohol knew I was on duty. So that means they're going to get in trouble. So it was in everyone's best interest to make sure that I didn't get busted because then that means it opens the door for everyone else to get busted too. So it actually created the perfect storm for me to get away with it scot free, which was, again, probably not a good thing, but stopped me getting kicked out of the Navy, which was a good thing. And yeah, it kind of went from there. It went from that to then I worked offshore in oil and gas. I was working in West Africa. I worked all throughout Southeast Asia. I worked in East Africa. And there was a lot of times where I was just in predicaments where I could have got promoted and didn't get promoted. Could have got promoted, didn't get promoted. And I made a lot of mistakes. And this just kept repeating as a cycle. And my response to that was, well, these people are saying one thing and they're doing this other thing. So what's the deal here? Like, why are people saying one thing and then giving a different response and coming out a different way? And so then that got me studied into language. And I wanted to learn how to manipulate people legitimately. That was how I got into coaching. It was nothing to do with helping anyone else at all. I had zero interest in it. I was like, nope, these people are screwing me over. So the whole victim thing still carrying through. Like, so I'm going to find a way to make these people do what they said they're going to do. I've still got the book. I can still remember the first time that I was using all these language patterns on one of my bosses to convince him that he was going to pay. And to be fair, he did give me a business class airfare home, which we weren't allowed to have, and put me up in a 5-star hotel. So I did manage to get that, which was wonderful. But I didn't get the promotion. And I didn't deserve the promotion. Even though I was a decent worker and I did well, if they promoted someone else ahead of me, it was because that person deserved the promotion. I didn't. I hadn't done everything necessary to stand out. So I went down this pathway. I practiced a lot of pickup, like the game and that kind of thing, where you run pickup, because that's where the best place to learn language patterns. Because you learn very quickly whether the language patterns are working or not, because it's pass or fail, very instant rejection. And ultimately, things weren't working. And the more I dived into it, the more I realized, okay, I need to learn hypnosis because hypnosis comes from this. So then I can like hypnotize people to do what I want. And when I went and did all this hypnosis stuff and started going through it, as a result of me doing all this hypnosis training, and hypnotherapy was like the best way to learn hypnosis that I knew because you actually did demos and you had instructors. I started changing because obviously it's hypnotherapy, right? It's a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful process. You can get a lot of good change out of it. And once I started changing, people started changing how they responded to me. I started getting more of what I wanted. And my brain started to make the connection. Well, maybe if you weren't such a piece of trash, you wouldn't need the language patterns and people just want to help you. And so that's kind of where it came full circle. And so I started going down more hypnosis and NLP and coaching training and really got a kick out of helping people. I really started to enjoy it. And that enjoyment started to propel me to do more of it. And I started to get really good results very quickly. So then it just became like this full circle. Like, okay, now it's not really about me anymore. Now it's about how do I help these people get what they want? And then by helping people get what they want, people naturally kind of want to help me get what I want.
Dude, that's NLP is just a life changer. I think it's, especially with a little bit of military background, you've been around that and some, but man, um, I was going to tell you, I would probably say I kick the can around trying to play the victim role and way too long. But in my now, and this is how I was explaining to someone the other day, I was like, I just didn't, I lacked the intelligence to be able to describe what I was looking for. I just need to talk through some things. I've never really intended to be the victim on any of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably led with that too much too. But I met folks like yourself, right? And you're like, it's cool because like I've been looking for you, and my first set of guests, they really helped me get to where the conversation of just like this. You're like, no, we're not victims. We're not. This is life. We get to do what we're set here to do, and no matter your worst day it's been your best day, and you can't rest a lot of. You had some influence through negative upbringing, but man, you can turn that into what you can mold that into whatever clay you want to mold it into. I think, and especially when you can find folks like yourself or folks like me, like you that help you kind of see through your BS, and that's what podcasting on the Second Chance podcast before I moved into this show, that's what really helped me was just the conversation with people. And there was a few people that got blunt with me. They were like, dude, why you tell a story like this? Why are you doing this? Like you need to, and one lady was like, had notes and she was like, you're so far off kilter of what the story you should be telling. And man, she gave me some really great advice to help me kind of hone in to where we're going. Um, so I get what you're saying there, and I never I did I so I did law enforcement versus military. In law enforcement, we do just interview techniques. You have all sorts of little things that you just learn to talk to people. And you
Yep.
learn that I worked in a rural county, so you really learn to talk to people because you might be the only person out there. Back when I come up, you worked the county. Help was a long way away, so
Right.
you learn
You
how
really need to
to,
learn how to talk to
yeah,
people.
you learn how to talk to people. Um, if not, you had a lot of bruises, and I was fortunate that most folks like me, and so I didn't get put in a lot of bad situations, but there were some. But you learn that gift of gab, you learn how to do the talking, um, and like you said, is able to take a lot of that training and apply that into where we are now. So next thing I would tell you is I got to do a past life regression
Well, there you go.
through one of my journeys. It's just really because I went on this soul searching, just trying to figure out me and who I was, and that's what I'm speaking on for the short term is just on either it's called an identity crisis, and it's just helping you figure out who you are. And if you know who you are, it's just really making sure that you're anchored in that, especially in public safety type settings. It fits in business, it fits in a lot of the other places,
Yep.
um, but it helps you just. There's some skills. I got a little keynote with it. So same similar type influences that you had. So, but I never thought on the hypnosis side of how beneficial that has to be for just coaching and just being able to help people navigate. Do you get to use it
Yeah.
a lot?
I'll I won't necessarily use direct hypnosis, so overt hypnosis. Where it's okay. Now, Jeff, what we're going to do is we're going to take you through a guided process. You're going to close your eyes. Not like that, but I do often use conversational hypnosis, where I'll just start to alter my voice and then guide your attention, so that you can pay attention to the sound of my voice as you listen to my voice and you notice this feeling and the sensation of everything starting to slow. And as you continue to focus on that, exactly, just like that. And you can start to have the experience, and I can start to guide your attention, or I can get you to shift your focus. And there's multiple ways to change and narrate that and get people through that. Now, some people, you mentioned the word hypnosis, and they scatter, man. They just like run for the hills because it's against their beliefs. They don't really know it. It seems like devil worship. I mean, there's plenty of reasons why people don't like it, and that's fine. Like, you got to respect that. So for a lot of the time, I won't actually even mention the word hypnosis. So look, what it's going to do is closed eye process, and it's going to take you through. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to help you resolve some things. Not a problem. But I found it was one of the best tools to help people start to uncover and pull off this stuff, this crap that we've like loaded on, right? So to answer your question about you're not broken, I come at it from the point of view that we're not trying to discover who we are. We're trying to pull off all the labels that's already been assigned to us that we accepted about who we are. So from in the most developmental and formative years, from 0 to 7, we're getting told who we are, what we're doing, what we're not doing. Right? Imagine you come home from school, you're messing around, horsing around with one of your best mates, and then your mum's like, Jeff, that's not you, that's David. Why are you acting like David? Well, now you've just had your identity defined about what you can and cannot do. And if that keeps happening, it's going to keep shaping your identity. Oh, that's not me, I can't do that. Oh, that's not me, I can't do that. It happens at school when your teacher's like, oh, you're acting out. That's not you. Why are you acting like that? But all those things are you. Like, you're learning your boundaries. You're learning who you are and who you're not. But we put it and we inject it onto these kids like it's not them, because we know better than them who they are when they're still developing. Like, the brain hasn't fully developed till you're 25. So how would you know exactly who they are and who they aren't? I mean, you can say, hey, man, like, this behavior seems different. Is everything okay? That's a way of approaching it. We're saying that's not you. You don't know. They're still learning. They're still defining. And so I think a lot of people go through that. But on top of that, what I found for a lot of people with this whole identity crisis is they attach, especially in the English language, we attach identity to a lot of things that are not ourselves, just through the way that language is structured and because of the way that things are frozen in time in English, right? So we identify at the identity level with our emotions. We identify with our professions. So that's why you can have this massive state of depression, which you won't even know, because let's say you were an engineer or you were a doctor and you lost your medical license. It's a big deal. Oh, I'm a doctor. Well, now you're not, right? I practice medicine is the same way of saying as I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
But it's now something that you do versus something that you are. So I think
It
that's
helps.
got a huge thing to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, well, and it helps identify with what I was just telling you on identity, right? It's you're a doctor when you're at work, you're practicing medicine, your work. It's we have to have the ability to kind of take that off and be something else. If not, it consumes you. And I think that's probably a lot of my experience. I wasn't necessarily all things. I just didn't. I took on the identity of whatever job I was filling,
Mhm.
and and I was all in with that, and I didn't know how to turn that off after hours. I didn't know. I think kids really help with that. And kids, and as you move through life, is that changes. I talked to some other friends. It's John Madley's kind of helped me a little bit through our conversations on just how he approached things. He's like, I never like all we hung with as a police officer. All I hung out with was other police officers. He's one of the guys. He's like, oh, I never hung out with other police officers. He said it was a whole different thing. Clay, you also went blind. And you struggle with vision. Tell me about that.
So 2010. I think it's 2010, 2009. 2009 Boxing Day. You guys don't celebrate Boxing Day in the US. So Boxing Day is the day after Christmas. It's a big thing in the UK, and as we are still a colony of the UK, we celebrate it. You guys won your independence. You just do whatever. You have a way better celebration for 4th of July. So we have Boxing Day, and Boxing Day. So Christmas Day was everyone celebrated Christmas Day, but typically you'd have the servants and the workers who would be working for all the lords and ladies in England. And so Boxing Day was they would rebox presents and give them to all the workers. And the workers would have Boxing Day off. So they used to box all the presents. They'd have the following day, following Christmas off. And there used to be a huge festival in Perth that happened every year on Boxing Day. It's the only day it happened. It's fantastic. And I was leaving one stage at the festival to walk to another stage. And as I was walking down, like my vision just disappeared. It went completely black in my left eye. I was like, okay, I don't know what to do about this. It's a bit strange. Anyway, so it's a public holiday, so nothing's open. So there's nothing I could do. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'll just go to the doctor's tomorrow and see what happens. Which by itself probably wasn't the smartest idea, but it wasn't a bad idea. I went to the optometrist the next day. He then put me in, got me a specialist appointment. I went that afternoon, which is very rare in Australia. You usually have to go through like a 6-week waiting period. So I'm like, okay, something's obviously up. Get to the specialist, been sitting around waiting for about 3.5 hours. Okay, you're going to be going for surgery on Friday, which is like 2 days' time. I'm like, okay, there's obviously something really going on. So my retina had detached. There was no trauma. There was no fight. There was no jarring incident. It
Mm.
just fell off. Like, I don't know. They reattached it. It came off after the surgery. They reattached it again. It was fantastic. I could see as well as I can see now out of my other eye that's functional. It then developed cataracts, and they went to remove the cataracts. I woke up, and my vision was gone again. So they gave it back to me and took it away, which sucked. Then more recently, in November last year, December last year, the vision in my right eye, which is the only functional eye I have at the moment, that started to go. And I spent a good 3 months and tens of thousands of dollars trying to figure out what it was just to be sure. And in February, on the 19th, I had a consensus by 3 different ophthalmologists that it was absolutely, in fact, cataracts. And the only way to fix it was surgery again. And I was like, yeah, great. Awesome. So now the only way that I can potentially see is to have an operation, the same operation that took away my vision in my other eye. So I could still see, however, my vision couldn't be corrected. And what I could see was like if I was looking at the screen now, I would see 3 of you. And I wouldn't be able to tell which one was you and which one was the blurs. And I guess that the middle one was you because it's the middle, but it made everything exceptionally difficult. Picking up forks from a drawer, trying to eat my food, like it just made everything challenging. So when that happened, and when it became clear it was the only way out, and I'd found the surgeon that was going to do it, kind of put a fire under my bum. And I was like, okay, there's a very real chance that in 3 weeks you are going to be permanently blind and there's not going to be a damn thing you're going to be able to do about it. So let's do something. Like, let's make something. We spent over a decade in this coaching. We spent this whole thing. When it first happened with my first eye, it was a huge hit because I didn't know how I was going to adjust. When it happened with my second one, I was already kind of prepared. I mean, I didn't know what was going to happen. And obviously now you can see, like we're having this conversation and I can see you, that the operation did become successful and I can see well out of the one eye anyway. So what ended up happening was I decided to myself, if it does go south, then I've got 3 weeks to get something out there that I can summarize all my knowledge of the last decade and put it to use so it's going to be permanently available for people. And so I was like, oh, I'll develop a course. I was like, well, that's stupid because then I got to pay for hosting and then I got to pay for this. And I can't really guarantee to do that if I can't see. Someone else has to do that. So it's like, okay, what's the one thing that once it's done, it's done? It's like a book. So I sat down, I'm like, okay. I'd given talks and podcasts about this topic, about like the death of betrayal, about this trust trap that we fall into. And it resonated with a lot of people. And I got a lot of talk about it when I spoke about it. I didn't speak about it at length on a lot of podcasts. I spoke about it briefly. But that was the most commented thing that the hosts are going, hey, this is super insightful. I'd never heard about this. I never thought about it this way. I was like, well, if I can only write one book, I think that's probably going to be the book that's going to be able to help the people the most. And so I sat down 16, 17 hours a day in front of the computer, 6 inches from my face on the couch, just typing away and pulling apart notes and, wrote the book. And I did it for a few reasons. One was I wanted to publish it on the day that I had the operation so that no matter what, that day would not go down as a bad day because it would be the day that I published the book. And so even if I lost my vision, the last thing I did was publish a book. So that's a pretty good note to end on, you know?
Yeah.
Now, whether the book fails and crashes and burns, which to be fair, probably would have because I couldn't market it if I couldn't see, right? So that would have been interesting. But I had done the thing. So it was a journey, let's put it that way. It was a lot of work to get the whole thing out in 21 days, that's for sure.
That's really cool, though. You teed me right up because that's what I was going to ask you. Um, was about that trust trap, and what is that? What is that? Um, we all have that reason behind the book, but who's that person you need to go get that copy? Who is that? Who are we looking for that you're like, hey, if you're right here, go get a copy of the Trust Trap and start working on it.
So the trust trap was written specifically for people who are experiencing similar situations to what you and I both were experiencing. However, here's the caveat and here's the difference. They're experiencing these situations and they keep finding themselves in situations that they don't really enjoy. And they're negotiating with themselves on why they should stay in the situation. Right? So, like, okay, uh, let's use a common example for all our female listeners. Right? You've got this guy, he's showing up, and then he does something or says something, you're like, oh, I'm not sure I really like that. But then you go out on a date with him, and then something else happens on that date. You're like, oh, I'm not really sure about that. But no, but someone else recommended him, and they wouldn't set me up with someone. And so what happens is you're making these assumptions based on this idea you've got inside your head instead of paying attention to what's happening in the moment, real time, which is the whole essence of the trust trap, is that we create these predictive models inside our brain. These predictive models are basically static for the most part. And so because we create this little model, it's like, oh, this is what we've got inside our head. What we're seeing doesn't match. Oh, we're going to go with the thing inside our head instead of paying attention to what's happening in real time out in front of us. We're kind of like, oh, don't believe your eyes, believe what's inside your head. And we kind of like destroy ourselves. So this is going to sound extremely egotistical, so please forgive me because I don't mean it to be. There is not a single human being that speaks English that's over the age of 18 that wouldn't benefit from reading the book.
Yeah.
Because it's a way to reclaim your personal freedom. The best review I got was from a friend of mine, and she used to tease me. She's like, you know what? Like, if people are ready to sell a kidney or a lung, they should work with you because the results you offer them are just amazing, but you're just so damn expensive. I'm like, what are you talking about? We literally changed your life. She goes, yeah, but like a lot of people won't be able to afford it. Hence the other part of writing the book, right? If you can pay $10, you get it on Kindle, you're good to go. But her review was this. She said, of all the people in the world, I didn't realize you'd be able to write this book. I knew you had the capability, but I didn't think that you would ever write it. And she said, with everything that I've gone through, this book didn't teach me how to trust people again. It taught me how to trust myself again. And through trusting myself, I can then trust everyone. And I was like, that's pretty epic. I'll take that. I'll take that as a huge win. So, who's it for? It's for the people who can't confidently look in the mirror and go, you know what? I can trust myself to make these decisions. I can trust how I'm going to respond. I can trust that I'm going to get the outcome. If you cannot say those things, then you will benefit from the book. As long as you're willing to confront some things. Because I've been told repeatedly that a lot of people have to put the book down for a week, sometimes 2 weeks, and come back to it and start reading. Because
I get
it
that.
very much is a confrontational approach.
Yeah.
It will call you out on things. Because if you're not called out on those things, you're not going to grow. You're not going to heal, and you're not going to move forward. Just like I had to look in the mirror and go, you know what? The only person that is the common denominator in all of these really bad stories where you seem to end up in a lot of strife, Clay, is you. And so if that's the only common denominator, then you got to look in that mirror, buddy, and you got to get to work.
That's good stuff, man. Tell me, in your coaching program, um, I have my you call you have campfire talks. I have a
Mm-hmm.
little program that I call fire starters. It's just that's the other commonality that I saw. I wanted to tell you that I thought um, that we were kind of strumming on the same guitar sometimes, just reading about you. But tell me about your coaching program as we wrap up here. About your coaching program, who your ideal client is, and how they can get in touch with you.
So my coaching program is slightly different to a lot of other people. I do a coaching program where basically you come in and you stay week by week. So it's kind of like a subscription service. You stay for as long as you get value, and if you're not getting value, leave. It's not a problem. Like, do what you got to do. What you got to do, right? If I'm the right guy, you'll stay. If I'm the wrong guy, you'll go to someone else who is the right guy or girl, whatever, right? We don't judge either way. But the ideal person is leaders and I guess you could say influencers, but whatever. But people that, and when I say influencer, I don't mean like an online influencer showing you these great new shoes and now you buy the shoes. Influence, I mean like someone who wants to exert influence or is in a position of influence inside a company where they are not getting the results that they would like to get with their people either above them and or below them. Because where a lot of people will start to say is like down the path I went, right? I need to learn how to persuade people. I need to learn how to influence those people. And I'm like, yes, you do. And the person you need to persuade and influence first is yourself. And so we set up all the personal systems so you can start to do that with yourself. And then as a byproduct of you doing that with yourself, would you believe it automatically starts to happen with everyone else, just like the whole process that I went through with myself. So ideally, I typically work with management or executives or entrepreneurs that are like running their own business, like solopreneurs. And the best way for people to reach out is just my email. That's usually the most ideal way. It's go@claymoffat.com.
Man, I really appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your journey and your story and all those vulnerable setbacks that we use to propel us forward and help us become coaches. So, folks, our whole goal sometimes is to help people not experience some of the same pains and setbacks that we have. And I really appreciate you and your work and then sharing that story with me, man. And along the same ways, I'm going to make sure that we amplify your story as much as we can so the folks that are looking for you can find their way into your program. And anything we can do on our side for the Jeff Robertson Show, make sure you let us know. But I wanted to tell you that. Thanks for being with us today and being that agent of change.
I appreciate you having me on the show. It's been a fun conversation, Jeff. A real
I
blast.
appreciate it. Thanks for being on today's episode of the Jeff Robertson Show.